Hello, everyone. How are you? How are you? Welcome back. This is the Terran Lamp Show, Season 7, Episode number 4. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, this is the Terran Lamp Show, Season 7, Episode 4. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to go ahead and put the Cash App in my comments. Let's see. That is, let's see. Is it, I think it's the dollar sign first. I can never get the Cash App thing right. I hope I'm getting it right. So that is my Cash App for those who are watching and those who watch the show regularly. Excuse me. You can donate there. It's not an official 501c3. This is a good old fashioned kind love offering that goes to help pay bills for heart disease or cancer patients in need. I take that directly to the hospital where I get treated and help pay off a bill for a heart disease or cancer patient in need. Again, this is the Terran Lamb Show, Season 7, Episode 4. I'm going to get my guest on right now. Excuse me. Helen, how are you? Hello? Let's see. I think maybe she dropped off for a second. Helen? Ah, there you are.
Hello, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good, good. It's nice to see you again.
I know. Is it evening? How's your morning?
It is.
Uh-oh. You're breaking up just a tad. Hello? Uh-oh. I think she might have dropped off. Let's see, she'll come back on, I'm sure. Okay, so we're gonna wait for my guest to come back on. I think she might have accidentally dropped off. So this is the Terran Lamp Show, Season 7, Episode 4. That is my Cash App in the comments. If you do donate, make sure, again, it's not an official 501c3. It's a good old-fashioned love kind offering. Put Survivor in the comments, and those monies do go towards helping to pay off a heart disease and cancer patient bill for someone that's in need. So that's what that Cash App is for. I am waiting for, here we go. Let's try it again. Let's see, Miss Helen. Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. There you are.
Hello, I don't know what happened there.
This cyber world. So what time is it there?
It's after lunch, so it's 12:30 on Wednesday afternoon.
12:30 on Wednesday. So
Yeah.
you're just a little ahead of me.
Yeah.
Just a little ahead of me. Well, I'm going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. As I was saying, this is the Terran Lamb Show, Season 7, Episode 4. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that I got a chance to reach out to you and you reached out to me. So again, I know we've talked a little bit, but thank you so much for joining me. But let's get started. Tell us a little bit about Miss Helen, where you are and what you've been up to, and kind of give us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, sure. So I am in Auckland in New Zealand. I am currently sitting on my couch because I do need to say I have 2 dogs and I'm hopeful that they won't interrupt our live stream. But so I'm just sitting next to them at the moment, hopefully. Yeah, and so we connected because I also share a lot about my story with cancer on Instagram. And I was really attracted to your story and how open you are and how much you share, because I think the more we share our stories, other people can really find the community and understand that, having cancer when you're younger is really challenging. I'm sure I think it's challenging anytime, but what I've learned is that I feel like when you're younger, we have quite different challenges.
Mm.
I guess is a good way of putting it. But I was diagnosed actually this time of year 4 years ago, um, in 2018, and I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. I had HER2 positive, and yeah, that was just the beginning of 18 months of treatment and just life changing in a way that I feel like people don't really talk about or I didn't really expect. And I shared recently that in some ways it's really challenging to explain just how much life has changed
Mm.
in those 4 years and the impact that that cancer diagnosis has had on my life. So yeah, I think that's sort of like a very condensed version of who I
So
am. Yeah.
I went ahead on. So for those who are just joining, this is the TERRAN Lamb Show, season 7, episode number 4. That Cash App is if you'd like to give. It's not an official 501c3, no tax deduction, just good old fashioned kind offering. And it goes to pay a patient's bill. So I take that, put survivor in the comments. I take that directly to the hospital and pay off a patient's bill or a portion of the bill. Miss Helen is telling us her story. And one thing you were saying, Helen, which I want to touch base on, is getting cancer when you're younger, and
Mm.
just kind of the, you kind of mentioned the, just the thoughts that were kind of going through your mind, or, how that kind of,
Yeah.
as they come to you a little different. Can you share with
Yeah.
us what I felt, but can you share with us what you felt and what you've kind of, deduced from just sharing your story?
Yeah. I mean, I think when it happened, I mean, no one expects it. I think that's the thing, is no one sort of thinks, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to get cancer.
Yeah.
Like that's not really part of the story. And so when it happened, it felt surreal in some ways. It was really weird. Like life just it kind of stopped, and I'd have those moments where I'd be going for a scan or a test or treatment, and everyone else around you, their lives are going on as normal, and you are in this world where, I think the strange thing is that I didn't feel sick before I was diagnosed with cancer, and then all of a sudden you're very sick, mostly from chemo, and so that takes a lot of, I guess, processing. And I think even after 18 months of treatment, I got to the end of it and I still didn't know how on earth do you process this? Like
Mhm.
how do you make any sense of this random thing happening in your life?
I still feel
Yeah.
like I can't believe I had it some days. I mean, I
Yeah.
can believe I get worried, like you said, you still go for those scans and things and you get worried. But sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
me? Like, I really have it? You know? Like,
Yeah.
are you for sure? Like, I can't believe it. Even though,
Yeah.
we're thankfully on the other side of it. I remember thinking to
Yeah.
your how surreal it was when I was diagnosed, because I was
Yeah.
like, is this for real? Like,
Yeah.
heard about that word, but is this for real? That's why I
Yeah.
like of your, your podcast and your handle, the C word, because that's exactly what I mean. Is that what it came from? Because you're like,
Yeah.
you're not. It's not really true. Not really the C word.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
get
totally. Because
it. And
it's such a strange experience. And I mean, I had a family member that had been through cancer. My mother had cancer a long time ago, and it was really scary and things. And now I guess like you get this insight into, oh my God, like what that must have been like for her to be going through that experience. It's because I think it can be quite lonely and isolating because um you're just you're really facing your mortality in a way
Mhm.
that people in their late 30s aren't. Like my friends weren't all going through it at the same time,
Yeah,
thankfully. But yeah, it was, there was no booklet at school saying, all right, and if your life turns out
yeah.
like this is how you cope with it. Yeah.
And that's where the facing your mortality at a young age, you don't really, you again kind of you don't think of it. Of course, it happens all around us, but it allows, or I don't know if allowed is the right word. It put it in your face for sure. You know,
Yeah.
like you're like,
Yeah.
oh crap, you know, like, oh,
Yes.
here I am, and what am I going to do with it? And people were, you know, I know this sounds hard to say, but people were asking me here, like, even now people were saying, have you thought about your will? Have you thought about things like that? And I'm like, well, yeah, I thought about that when I got cancer, you know, like,
Yeah.
I thought about it. So,
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. And then at the same time, you know, turning that into a positive that we did have it at such a young age, and how it's
Yeah.
kind of who we are now, you know, 5 years
Yeah.
later, 4 years later, you know, how is that
Yeah.
shaped now? Because I'm sure you have different, you know, you're thinking a lot different than you did, you know, pre-cancer. How has that shaped you?
Yeah. For sure. I think for me, what it has forced me to do is face a lot of things about myself. And um, I don't know what your experience was, but it certainly brought up a lot of of my stuff, if that makes sense. And so I kind of feel like it forced me to go, what are the things in my life that do not serve me? How did I develop these things? And now what am I going to do to
Mm-hmm.
change it? Because like I never, like, to be honest, I can never really say, oh, I'm really glad I got cancer. Because I feel like if it hadn't happened, life would have gone in a different way, and that would have been that life. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel the thing that it has done is that I am grateful that it has forced me to really look at myself
Yeah.
and think about, that thing doesn't serve me anymore. It may have once had a purpose,
Yeah.
um, like my people pleasing or my perfectionism, just things like that. It's almost like it forces you to go, hey, life is really short. Let's just clear out all the stuff that doesn't work anymore. And even though that can be really confronting and it can be really painful, because you're going through a sort of process of letting go and grieving and kind of coming to a sense of acceptance that this is the way life is. I'm not living the same life path as a lot of people, like my friends or people my own age. So it certainly, I think, has changed me in that way of really assessing how I want my life to be and knowing that actually I can change. Yeah.
And I have one of the funny things that, and I don't know, again, like you said, you know, knowing each other's experiences, but I know sometimes people will say to me, like, you know, I ended up having a double mastectomy as well. And someone would say, well, how was your surgery? You know, how was that? And I'm like, look, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? Like, who, just like, they are what
Yeah.
they are. I mean, like,
Hmm.
I don't think about that as much as I probably would have, you know, and I
Yeah.
would be like, now I'm like, you know what? Everybody's seen these. You know, everybody at the hospital, these, I measured these, we all did these. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
here, because, and lots of times it's either, you know, other survivors or people that just want to know, or, you know, I had people calling me, other people that were going through it. And I was just like, you know what? We're all in this together. You know, like,
Yeah.
here's what I got, you know,
Yeah.
this is what I got to offer, if that's what you're asking, you know. And
Yeah.
I not necessarily maybe been like that pre cancer, and it's kind of a funny thing, but at the same time it's serious
Yeah.
because that's a big deal in our world, you know.
Yeah.
What that surgery is going to look like should you choose to do it. So
Yeah.
I know, thinking that when people are like, well, do you like them? And I'm like, I love them. Yeah, look at them. You know, like, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what did you just do? You know? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going off. But anyway, so what do you think of maybe been, I mean, just, you mentioned the stuff, your
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
what do you, A, is there anything you can tell us about maybe what you discovered about yourself? And B, what obstacles have you had kind of, uncovering that stuff, if you will?
Yeah. I think
That
I
stuff.
kind of the
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. I guess because when I finished, because I had HER2 positive breast cancer, and I'll just skip back a bit so you sort of understand the timeline. So I didn't have hormone involvement, but I did have HER2 positive, and so what that meant is that I was on a drug called Herceptin for a year. So all up, I was 18 months, or near enough 18 months of treatment after having, everything thrown at it. And I remember even just with radiation finishing and things and trying to go back to work and trying to um, just like integrate back in and just realizing that everything had changed. I wasn't the same person anymore. I couldn't relate to the world the same
Yeah.
anymore. Um, yeah, and so I think I felt really lonely and angry for a long time. And then in about the October of 2019, and that was when my Herceptin finished, I did a weekend retreat and it was
Oh,
visiting yeah. So it was a couple visiting from Canada, and they were a radiation oncologist and a psychologist, and there was also another guy. And that really opened my eyes to the amount of healing that I need to do. And I don't just mean physical, but I feel like, and we don't talk about this enough, is that cancer actually can mean that you need to heal physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It affects everything. And we're really, for me, I'm really good at well, how do I heal physically? What do I do? What do I have to do? That sort of stuff. But um, it was really challenging emotionally because there was a lot of grief, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of like really intense emotions. And so I did this retreat and it was great. But then you go back into normal life,
hmm
and so I've spent the past couple of years, I guess, really trying to drill down into what is going on here. And so I've done a lot around grief, because leading up to cancer, life had been really challenging too. And so I realized that I was actually really carrying a lot of grief and that I didn't know how to release it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know what to do with it. And so it's been learning that because I can be very practical and very in my head and I'm just going to sort it out. And so, that challenge of going, it's actually often not about that. It's about letting that grief out of your body and being open to things that I may not have been open to. And so, I've really been looking at what are the beliefs that I've told myself for the
Yeah.
past 41 years. How has that impacted the way I interact with the world? And so, a lot of it really has been at looking at some of those hurts, some of those, those things that we learn along the way and that we hold on to. And like for me, some of it is about the people pleasing and the perfectionism and defining myself by my achievements and that sort of thing, and just really getting clear about, wow, who am I under all of this stuff? And what do I want my life to look at? How do I put my health, and I mean like holistically, my mental, physical, emotional health as a priority? Which I'm not saying that I even can give you an answer on how on earth you do it, because I'm doing decades of living one
Of,
way. So yeah,
of stuff, like you said, the best way. You're just unlearning. And how are you going to do it? And you said like, who am I? And almost like, how am I? Right? Like, what? You know what I mean? How am I
yeah,
showing? How am I getting through? How am I going backwards? How am I going forward? You're just like, it brings up so many things. And the grief
yeah,
thing, it's like grief of my body as I once knew it,
hmm,
if that makes any sense.
yeah,
You know, like,
yeah,
um, you know, I mean, of course, there's different types of grief, right? There's losing people, there's losing things, there's losing a lot of things, right? But it's
yeah,
like grief as yourself as you once knew him or her, because you have
yeah,
to feel that when you're going through it, you know, and you can't, and to your,
Yeah.
you said earlier, is you can't, I mean, your journey and my journey, we both had it, but they're both different journeys. So you can't
Yeah.
explain your individual journey to someone and what you're going through, because you know, you can get the gist of the cancer, but you can't really explain
Yeah.
what you're going through in your individual head, because we all have different journeys, right? But
Yeah.
I remember that too, and I still have it, you know, like of thinking about, you know, the TERRAN before, you know, pre
Yeah.
ski and post kind of thing.
Yes.
Um, and I, you know, we all have it. We've all been there, and hopefully, you know, work our way past it at some point in our life. But I don't know when that point's going to be, and I don't think anybody can
Yeah.
say to be for each, you know, individual person. So what would you
Yeah.
tell, you know, again, like I said, every individual has a journey, but let's say there's someone, you know, your age, right down the street from you, you know what I mean, that, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately they got here, and what would you
Yeah.
tell them that's helped you, because you are such a bubbly you're such a bubbly person, you out on the other side, clearly working through some of your stuff. You may not be, you know, there all the way where you want
Yeah.
to be, but what would you tell someone, you know, to get
Yeah.
yourself back on
Yeah.
track?
Gosh, it's such a hard one. And do you know, that's so funny that you say I'm bubbly, because that's one of the things in my head that I need to let go of, is that people tell me I'm bubbly a lot, but I keep thinking, oh, no, no, that's not me. So thank you.
Oh yeah, like if we were closer, we would giggle
Yeah.
in real
Yeah.
life together.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how did we
I think,
tell someone to get there, you know?
yeah. Yeah. I feel like when someone first finds out they have cancer, or maybe they've come to the end of this enormous thing of treatment and just these months of this insane experience, to know that there's no right or wrong way of doing it, and that no one can tell you what your timeline of healing is, and that sometimes you do have to seek outside of like the Western model to find a way to to really tune into what your body wants. And I think that that's one of the things that I have learned, is that once and I would recommend this to anyone, is link in with your community of other people who have been through cancer, whether it's at a younger age, or they are, the same gender as you, or there's something about them that really resonates, and to really link in with them. Because I feel like that's where I started to be able to normalize my experience. And so that's the first one, is to know that your experience is unique. There's no right or wrong way of doing this, and that talking about your experience with people who get it is so cathartic and therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd also just tell them that, yeah, to take your time. Like, you've just been through something traumatizing and huge, and not to let anyone tell you that, that there's this sort of timeline that you're meant to be on. Because I think sometimes our loved ones are so relieved that it's over, and they're waiting for, Helen or TERRAN to come back, but that person doesn't exist anymore. And so I feel like our loved ones have to go through this sort of adjustment period as well,
Yeah.
of who is this person, this angry, bald person who's just, you know. So, yeah, I don't know if that was coherent, but I just feel like the main thing I say to people is just, yeah, whatever your experience is valid and okay.
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
say give grace,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, because you're a basket of, I don't even I mean I remember just thinking I'm all over the place. You know what I mean? Like all over the place. Like I staring off into space one day, and like,
Yeah.
you know, cool the next day, you know, like I remember
Yeah.
that, because like literally, I actually went to cancer therapy, and so did my
Mm.
spouse. I asked him
Yeah.
when one day they asked like how often I found myself, just kind of staring off into space. That was the words that they used. And, just
Mm.
thinking. I said, like a few times a day. And then they asked my husband on a separate occasion the same question. And he was like,
Yeah.
oh, all the time. So it was different to see how he saw me in these
Yeah.
spaces and how I felt, because we
Yeah.
saw it differently, to your point, of those around you, how they see you going through it and how you're thinking you're going through it one way and they're seeing you a completely different way. Like he's like,
Yeah.
she's constantly in space. And I'm like, I was,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, I don't
Yeah.
feel constantly in space, but I guess from his perspective, I was,
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
I thought that was, interesting. And to your point, finding, peers, I find a peer group here as well. And so I think
Mm.
all your things you're saying are right on. And of course, like we always say, everybody's journey is individual, but, I experienced some of the same things it sounds like that you did. So guys, this is the
Yeah.
TERRAN episode, season 7, episode 4. We're talking to Helen here, the C Word Radio, talking about the C word.
Yes.
So Helen, we have, believe it or not, 2 minutes left. So this is
Oh, wow.
right? This is a question that I ask everyone, and this comes from, I save these cats in my backyard. That's another C word.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard the saying, but curiosity in the cats, that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are you curious about?
Oh my gosh. This is a funny question for me. So I have ADHD, and so I have a new thing that I am obsessed with every sort of month or so. I go through all sorts of strange um, curiosities. So this is a funny one for me. Do you know, at the moment, what I'm curious about is making my own clothes. So I've always been creative and sewing, and so I sort of ebb and flow with doing things like knitting and sewing. And so at the moment, I just feel really curious about creating or making clothes that really feel like me again. Yeah, so that's what I'm curious about is what clothes do I want to wear? How do I want to be in the world? Yeah.
I'm going to use that. That's going to be your thing. How do you want to be in the world? Because for one, I think that too, right? How do you want to show up? Right? How
Mm.
do you want? But tell me real quick in this last minute. So what do you, back to this clothes thing? That's a whole nother show. So what do
Yeah.
you make? What do you want to make?
Do you know, it's so funny because I explained this the other day to someone, is that I am an introvert, but I'm slightly extroverted.
Okay.
And I love patterns, anything with loud, bright patterns. And so it's kind of like I feel a bit shy about talking to you, but I want my presence to be noticed. So I'm going to wear really bright clothes.
You know what's so funny about that is, so I'm an extrovert, right? In
Yeah,
real life, I'm an extrovert, but in all
yeah,
real, I'm an introvert. Because my husband always,
yeah,
always, like even on social, he'll say, "Taryn, you're not really sharing yourself." But in real life, I'm a real life extrovert. But in all the other
yeah,
ways, I'm an introvert. I'm the one who's
yes,
afraid to put their social security number on anything, even though the world's got it. You know what I mean? Like everybody
yeah,
knows where I live, but I won't put an
yes,
address, or I put a fake email, and he's like, "Taryn, oh my
yeah,
gosh, has your email? Like, stop." You know? And I'm a real life extrovert, but all my other fake
yeah.
lives, I'm an introvert. So
I love it.
I get that, but I also like that you're totally curious about something, and I can't wait to hear. So, if you tune into the show, but I do this thing, and I'm starting it over. So this is my second year doing this show, and so I bring back people. So I'll bring you back on
Yeah,
a where now next year, and I can't
yeah.
wait to hear where you are with this clothes adventure. Like
I'll just be head to toe in brightly colored clothing.
that you made, that you made. That's the part. Yeah. That's, see, someone says, "Look, you really should, Helen. You've got some vote.
Hi, Maria.
You've got a vote of confidence, right?"
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We are 1 minute over, guys. This is the TERRAN Lamb Show episode, season 7, episode 4. Make sure you're liking, following, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. We are available here on IG Live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time. We are. You can also check us out on YouTube at I Am TERRAN Lamp and Apple Podcast, the TERRAN Lamp Show. See, you get some votes. I agree.
Thank you.
We can't wait to see what this is going to be, this adventure. I mean, we started off talking about cancer and now we're on clothes. All these C words. So, so thank you so much for your time. I'm going to reach out to you via message in just a second. But thank you so much for your time. And everyone, we will be back Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time. Be good to yourself and each other. Thanks a lot, Helen. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.